life in Brooklyn in the 70s and the 80s was different. So it was fun, though. When we look back at it now, we had a lot of fun. Crime definitely wasn't what it is now.
From the point where all that you know about the African countries were negative, now going to a dance performance by the Swahili, right?
Soweto Gospel Choir.
Soweto Gospel Choir. And that turned your life around.
Completely changed.
Really? Tell me, how was that experience for you? What did you see?
First, it was what I heard. That's what I heard. First of all, seeing them come in, like everybody was friendly. We all said hello, just waving. My ignorant self didn't think they spoke English, so,
Jesus Spirit.
Right? The first sounds that I heard them sing, I was on my feet. I had never heard singing like this. And we're thinking, we were in a church. On the instrument was a drum and their voices.
Yeah.
I've never heard singing like that. I don't know what South Africa has. I would love some of it, but I am so in love with South African voices.
Wow. You are welcome to the Voyage. In life, there are stories that means a lot to you. And there are stories that when you hear them, you wonder where did the journey actually start. When you see people who are passionate about their mission in life, there is a story behind that passion that most people are not aware of. Today, on the set of The Voyage, I'm joined by Fatia, who is a community builder, a voice, who also believes that there is a need to correct the wrong narrative in the society today in Nashville, Tennessee. Fatia, you are welcome to the set of The Voyage.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome. This is going to be fun and challenging. But let's just dive into our conversation and see how the conversation flows. And definitely trusting that many people will connect with your story, with your journey, and with your mission as well. So many people definitely know the Fatia that is passionate, that is the community builder, that is the bridge builder, connecting people across nationality, across different ethnic society. But let's start from the beginning. Who is Fatia?
Oh, wow.
Your childhood. Describe to us, what was your childhood environment looks like, your childhood memory. What did you cherish? And also, what gives you pain, even looking back at your childhood? Let's dive in and get to know Fatia.
Okay, you went heavy right there. I know we said we will talk about some of the uncomfortable things, but I didn't know it would start with me. That's another podcast, really.
Okay.
But so I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
To wonderful people, Randolph Shepard and Irene Bird. They're both from Georgia.
Okay.
And I have two older brothers. And right now they live in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And then I have one niece. So we're a small family. I have one daughter myself. How did I grow up? So I grew up in a very urban area.
Okay.
What some might call the inner city. It's always a new term for something. In Williamsburg, South Williamsburg section of Brooklyn. So literally about 1 block from Bed-Stuy and 1 block from Bushwick, but right in the corner of South Williamsburg in Brooklyn. So very fond memories. Not so much of an easy lifestyle back then, but that's what we knew.
Okay.
And while there were some uncomfortable moments growing up there, there's a lot of joy that, we speak of. Myself, my family, my friends, the friends that I stay in touch with. We talk about growing up there and whatnot. So life in Brooklyn in the 70s and 80s was different. So it was fun though. When we look back at it now, we had a lot of fun.
All right.
So um, crime definitely wasn't what it is now. Um, we didn't have the same issues with like I guess the openness and the accessibility of drugs and
Okay.
other substances. So it was different back then.
All righty.
You know.
So, looking at your story, growing up in Brooklyn, what part of your upbringing actually shaped the woman and the visionary and the community builder that you are today?
Well, on a deeper level, I would say I draw a lot as far as compassion from my father having been an alcoholic for a great part of my upbringing and had gone away to the military. I went to the Air Force, and while I was there, I lost a very, very close cousin, which is very hard. So going to a different place emotionally, it kind of helped me to see myself in him and what may have brought him to that place of becoming addicted to alcohol. More of it being a way to solve pain, places of pain. So it helped me to learn compassion and to have a better understanding about empathy. So that I think helped a lot as far as how I view people now and how I regard people now. Being more of a listener than a finger pointer or someone quick to blame, but listening and wanting to find out more about why people have certain behaviors, why people have perhaps certain weaknesses, or helping others to discover why they have certain weaknesses. So that was something I had to kind of take that journey myself,
Okay.
and so it helps me um, to relate to people differently. So wanting to help people relate to each other,
Yeah.
in better ways. So that I would say that part of my upbringing has a lot to do with why I am and the way I am now.
So, looking at how you develop that heart of compassion, listening to people, not pointing fingers, how has that values shaped and also birthed the vision that you carry in your heart today?
I don't like to see people fight. I don't like to see people dislike people for nonsense reasons. Sometimes there's no reason for someone to have a distaste or dislike towards someone else, and it can be just based on ridiculous stuff. But sometimes when we take the time to actually face one another and confront the issue, without it being about a fight or a war, but laying that on the table and talking about what it is that we have an issue with. And then sometimes we realize that it was absolute garbage, just because we finally got it out of our system and realized it was something that was completely internal. Nothing against that person. And that's another one of those things I had to go through myself because I was that person. And, and you have to be real with yourself. You really do. So, yeah.
But it seems human beings, some people derive pleasure in fighting.
Yes.
And that is something that you don't like.
No, I don't. I don't. I think it's a waste of energy.
And at times, people will not even know the reason why they are fighting,
Correct.
or fighting on a wrong premise or on an assumption that is completely wrong.
Correct. And it's just something that makes them feel good. They feel, better about themselves because they feel like, I guess it helps to bring out the so-called winner in them. But it's a fallacy. It's like, come on, really, can't find anything better to do with yourself.
And it's also much more painful when it is not just individuals, but when it is now a group of people
Correct.
who have this wrong impression or wrong assumption about another group of people.
Correct.
And then it becomes a major clash.
Don't we see that today?
Hmm.
Right? We have, and it just takes one strong voice or one influential voice to say XYZ, to start working on the minds of others. And it's the, oh gosh, what's the term? When you kind of softly put things into people's minds and it's enough to influence them and to impact them without them really knowing it. And then next you know, they're carrying it on. And then we see that today. We've been seeing for, since our President Obama was in office, we've been seeing it. And it's like out of control right now. So it's very easy to influence weak minds.
Very easy to influence weak minds.
They think they're strong, but they never realize that they've been brainwashed.
Wow.
Or they're being led astray and toward negative actions and thoughts and motives, and it's wild, but it's so easy to happen, and it happens in so many different ways.
So before we dive into the burden and the vision that you spend your day-to-day on right now, I'm still curious about this aspect of your upbringing and your story, because there is always for many people that build meaningful work across generation, there is a pain behind that meaningful work. There is a burden that led to that. I'm curious, was there a personal pain or a personal experience that actually opened your eyes into the vision that you carry today?
Yes. So even I grew up in New York City, which, is known for as being this so-called melting pot, as they call it, this place where there's just so many different individuals from various places around the globe. That is very true. But New York City is also still a very divided place because you still have segregated neighborhoods where certain ones should not be in certain neighborhoods, plain and simple. And, it's been that way since I was little. It was that way always. So I didn't have really, or maybe I didn't take advantage of, or just didn't have the right access to experiencing multiculturalism, really. So, Puerto Rican community members and friends we grew up around, some Jewish individuals we grew up around. In high school, a great deal of people in my school were from the Caribbean and, of course, African Americans, but not that many Caucasians. So that was like the extent of the diversity that I grew up around. So it wasn't until I was, it was in the early 2000s that I had that experience that you're asking about.
Okay.
And that was really in regards to encountering personal contact. I'm sorry, contact and an interaction with African people.
Mm.
So we didn't know much. We weren't exposed to the real Africa, so to speak. It was just like it is everywhere around the world, just the negative things. You see the TV commercials, the sick children, the starvation,
The lions still walk on the road.
absolutely. That's what we saw.
Mm.
And then of course, as my father would talk about, that Tarzan was the big thing back then, but really, so that's as far as our thinking went. So that was the extent of, what we were exposed to. So, I didn't even really know about African dance classes or anything that was related to Africa that we had an opportunity to engage with. And so, well, I'm going to take that back. I did have friends who were dancers. I was like a really, really shy person, so I didn't do all of that. But I do remember now that I think a couple of them may have taken African dance classes. But other than that, there was nothing else that gave us an opportunity to engage with African culture or learn about it. So I grew up just rejecting it, really. And there wasn't anything I really wanted to know because everything I knew was negative. So what did I need to know? If I met someone from there, they typically were never very friendly. The few people that I knew, like instructors in college and whatnot, not very friendly. So there was nothing that drew me toward wanting to know more. I don't want to know anything outside of this country. That was how my mind was
You
conditioned.
did not want to know anything outside of the United States.
Not interested at all. And that was how my mind was conditioned. So in 2006, 2005, the end of 2005, I was asked to help a friend, one of my other mothers, I call her here, who operated an organization called Creative Artists of Tennessee, CATS. And she asked me to do the promotional materials, the graphic design on the side. It's my sidekick, my side gig. And she asked me to do the promotional materials for a performance that her church was sponsoring, the Soweto Gospel Choir, who was performing at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
I said, okay, sure. So she gives me the website, and I go to the website, I hear them singing, I see their pictures. Oh, so cute. No big deal. Just did the work and that was it. She says, well, I want you to, make sure you're there at that performance. And I'm like, sure, I'll come to it. Didn't think much of it. So I went to it. And that was what changed my life.
Really?
I mean, changed my world completely.
From the point where all that you know about the African countries were negative, now going to a dance performance by the Swahili, right?
Soweto Gospel Choir.
Soweto Gospel Choir.
Correct.
And that turned your life around.
Completely changed.
Really? Tell me, how was that experience for you? What did you see?
First, it was what I heard. That's what I heard. First of all, seeing them come in, like everybody was friendly. We all said hello, just waving. My ignorant self didn't think they spoke English, so really like, oh my God, they speak English. So, just dumb, right? The first sounds that I heard them sing, I was on my feet. I had never heard singing like this. So we're thinking, we were in a church. On the instrument was a drum and their voices.
Yeah.
I've never heard singing like that. I don't know what South Africa has. I would love some of it, but I'm so in love with South African voices
Wow.
from them. So it was hearing them sing, and then afterwards it was meeting them. So fortunately, that day their lunch was a little delayed, and they were just sitting around, and being the recovering shy person that I am, I was not one to go approach someone. I wanted to, but just couldn't do it. So one of the girls from the choir, she came to me and introduced herself, which I thought was so sweet. And then she introduced me to so many other girls in the choir and some of the guys. And so that was just life-changing to me. And still maintaining friendships with them today.
Wow.
So we're talking 20 years ago.
Wow.
20 years ago, February 10th, 2006. And just getting to know them, hearing stories about Johannesburg and Soweto, different areas around South Africa that they were from, getting to know them and just having conversations. That was life changing to me, because that was my first time not meeting someone from Africa, but meeting someone who still lived in Africa. And that, for some reason, just was a change in dynamic for me.
Wow.
That was different. So it made me want to know more. So I'm like, okay, these people are really cool. I like this.
They can speak English.
They speak English. And at least a dozen other languages, which totally made me feel stupid. Here I am, with my English degree and everything, and proud of, having this. And I speak one language. That is nothing to brag about. And, so I really started to admire that. I'm like,
Wow.
guys, we think so poorly of other people. And it should be the other way around. They should feel sorry for us because we're deprived. We're deprived. I grew up with one language. Speak it well enough, but still, we don't have that additional community pull, or that community clutch that, through language. That, I love that people can talk to each other in other languages, and, I don't have to know what they're saying. I don't find that offensive, personally. I know it offends other people, but yeah, I think it's a gift. It's a gift to be multilingual. So anyway, so that's what that was that pivotal change for me, and so after hearing the stories, then I wanted to see, well, what does Africa really look like? What does it really look like?
Really, that was the year 2000.
2006.
2006.
So I started researching. Thank God, the internet was, starting to really boom at that time. So I went on the internet and I started researching. I was floored. I was like, wow, they have buildings.
Really?
What's stupid here? I see cities that look like cities we have here. I see people who are dressed the same way, so everyone is not half dressed like we think.
Hey, walking around,
Oh. And it's not to say or even to speak negatively of those who do live, the more rural lifestyles of village lives. Yeah. No, not at all. But that's not all. There's so many facets to life there that we are just not aware of. We're missing out. So I want to know. And I'm like, well, if I'm this amazed and impressed at what I'm finding out, then other people would be intrigued too. So that is where all of this comes from. Just wanting to enlighten, just wanting to broaden perspectives and help to change some of these negative beliefs that we have, and it's still not to say that those negative things don't exist. They do exist, but that's not all it is.
So, Chimamanda, one of Nigerian astounding person, talks about the danger of a single story. And when you look at your own experience and your own discovery, I would say from ignorance about the true African countries and the true African people, just an interaction with someone that lives in Africa and experiencing the dance from the Soweto gospel choir change you completely, change your perspective. What do you think is responsible for that single story that many people in the US have about African countries or some other countries?
It's partly about control. As we've talked, off camera before, one thing that has become very apparent to me is, in society, in life in general, nobody ever wants to be seen as being at the bottom of the barrel, as they say. And so you've got everyone climbing to try to get to the top, to be on the top, because we don't want to be the one on the bottom. Somewhere there are individuals who decided for themselves that they would place themselves at the top. Okay, and then they decided who would be on the bottom. Why is the question? Is it because they don't value these individuals, or is it because they do value them? And it's more of an intimidation thing, to where we have to find a way to keep them down so they don't rise above us.
Wow.
So there is much greatness in our people, as we know.
Definitely.
Right? Why shouldn't that be more widespread? Why shouldn't we know more about who we are, who we come from? Why? Because that would put us at the top. And the others would sink down to the bottom. They don't want that. So, they'll use all types of ruthless measures to make sure we, quote unquote, stay in our place, right? That's seen throughout history. It's seen throughout history. So the bad thing is when we ourselves believe that.
Wow.
And then you have some of us who will fight each other. Or we want to put the other down because he or she can advance or is advancing. Then it's like, oh, you think you're better than me. Then we have to try to bring our people down. So that's a heavy question and discussion, because there's so many different answers to it on different levels, different sides.
So for clarity's sake, you mentioned about some people who want to perpetually be in control, and they condition the mind of people so that they have a wrong narratives about the African countries and even about themselves. Who are the they that you refer to?
Persons of European descent, I would say, are the they. Who are the they who own other lands where people exist? Who are they? Who are the they who invade other countries and decide they want it, other lands and decide they want it, even though people live there? It's never us. So who are the they? Who's that? who has dissected Africa to call parts of it their own, and still in some areas have the nerve to still have ownership of indigenous people's lands and controlling their livelihoods and their lifestyles and their abilities to advance and to even survive in many ways, to get out of struggle. To me, is very intentional. To others, is very intentional. Dr. Shimbori talks about that.
So these are the day that want to be perpetually in control.
Don't you think?